Guys, Marzinkin here bringing you a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so recently we have been talking a lot about power creep in Dokkan and how units are starting to struggle quicker seemingly than ever against new events. Characters even from like the 10th anniversary, for example, not holding up super well in some of the fights from the global Dokkan campaign, and of course even the memes of like, you know, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta on release, a lot of people calling him #1, maybe recency bias, maybe just impressed with, like, you know, how powerful he is out of the gate turn 1, super good animations and stuff like that. He probably wasn't #1 on release, because I think I still settle on the STR Goku being better, but literally the memes of like him being the best unit in the game, and then like a week or 2 weeks was it later, when the EX part happened and the Hybrid Saiyans events came out, and those were like super bad for Gogeta, like a really bad matchup for him in terms of events. So people were joking that he'd been power crept as the best unit in the game in like 2 weeks. So one thing that we were chatting about on stream the other day that I thought would be interesting to make into an actual video, and I've just pulled a handful of characters by looking at the schedule and like working backwards, is who are the oldest characters in terms of when they released or when they got an EZA. So for example, like a character like Super 17, he just got his EZA. So for the purposes of this discussion, he's a brand new unit, right? So we're not talking about characters who've only just EZA'd or anything like that. We're talking about when they got their EZA or when they released. Who are the oldest characters in the game that are still good in the meta currently? Now, obviously, you can see on the screen, we're going to start with Glorio, who was from the New Year Dual Dokkan Fest. Now, there are characters who are newer than him that are still good, but I figured we'd at least go back to, you know, past this year. Because realistically, going back through the meta, I mean, there are even some characters that released during this year who are not great in the meta currently. The whole point of the video is who are the oldest units that are still good. Now, obviously, some of the 10th anniversary characters are still good. Super Saiyan 3 to Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the TEQ Vegito and AGL Gogeta can still be good in the right situations, in the right events. Obviously, they're not like turn 1 tanking these hardest hitting bosses. I mean, Super Saiyan 3 Goku kind of always been a bit dodge reliant, but his active skill, Giant Ape Transformation, especially as it can activate mid-turn in events, we found that out today on stream doing challenge against the Giant Ape event. And just like picking up a bunch of bomb orbs and then being able to just transform Goku straight away is pretty good. So there's a couple of characters that are from within this year who are still good, but the point of the video is who are the oldest characters that are still good in the meta right now, and we're going to go through a few of them here. I'm sure there's some that I'll have missed out. I don't know if there are any further back than this. I basically just looked at the release schedule, went back a bit, and obviously I looked at some of the teams that I currently have saved in my list of teams for the ones that I like to take into events, to see who some of the oldest characters on those teams are, because that's another sort of way to look at it, I guess, is like, you know, we take a look at my STR Blue Goku team, and there are no units older than, well, most of them are from this year, and there's one that we're going to talk about in this video, but he's only there for a very specific team build that we were trying out in a certain event. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on this topic. Who do you think is the oldest unit? But let's go ahead and jump in and go through the ones that I've picked out. So Glorio is still here for a couple of reasons, right? His leader skill is really good. Demonic power got a lot of buffs when he was out and when he just after he came out. It's not as great now. It hasn't had as many buffs recently, but the fact that he leads accelerated battle, he leads a lot of really, really good characters. So his leader skill is pretty solid. And the thing is, he can still be usable in a lot of events as long as dodge isn't disabled, because he has the dodge chance as well as the fact that, of course, he has the multiple supers per turn. He essentially builds up to having 80% chance to dodge. So as long as you're not against AoE enemies, like once he gets his attacks off, his dodge chance is pretty high. His defense builds up pretty high. Because obviously he's one of the first characters to have this interesting sort of like every super attack gives him a permanent buff on top of the fact that he greatly raises for the turn as well. And he does lower attack, which is useful in some events still. So like this guy, really, really cool. Still usable today, although against some of the toughest bosses he will be a dodge or die character, but great unit for support. Like if Goma drops and is like a 220 demonic power leader, like I feel like this guy just gets a place on his team as a third slot floating support unit. And whilst you will still be kind of relying on dodge against the harder bosses, there's a lot of units in the meta that are like that, right? So it's not a unique problem for Glorio, but I think he'll be very effective on any new 220 teams that he comes out on. And he's very, like, malleable. What's the word I'm looking for? Malleable is not the right one. He can be used on a lot of teams, basically, because he supports all allies for 3 turns. So any team that he's good on, yeah, he's going to be still valuing or still worthy of a spot, I should say. So he released in December 2024 on the 27th. Now, another unit who is slightly older than him is the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, who came out on the 12th of December. This is the unit I was talking about. I have a team build of the Blue Goku team, it's obviously Fused Fighters, where this guy is on the team. And he's interesting. He's in this discussion of old units that are still good, I guess with like an asterisk next to it, right? Because one of the major things that this guy is still really, really good for is bosses that have Ki Blast super attacks. Because Gotenks starts off with a pretty solid amount of damage reduction. He has 22% for 5 turns. As long as you've got a final trump card ally, he has 33%. So in the first 5 turns, he has 55%. And then if he gets hit by a Ki Blast super attack, he gets 44% extra damage. So he has 99% damage reduction against Ki Blast super attacks specifically. So that means even some of these bosses that like with their full build up are doing some sort of crazy like 12 million damage. Like 12 million minus 99% is 120k. So as long as Gotenks has more than 120k defense, he's tanking a 12 million damage super attack for double digit damage in the first 5 turns, right? And then he counters and does some extra damage back to the enemy. So against Ki Blast super attacks, Gotenks can still be very, very good. Against non-Ki Blast super attacks, obviously not as much. He has the chance for this passive to activate, right? Where he has a high chance to get 777% extra defense. If that happens, then obviously he can still tank strong attacks relatively well. Usually obviously post super. And we're still talking about within those first 5 turns where he has the extra damage reduction. Most events in the meta currently are probably not lasting longer than 5 or 6 turns. But Gotenks' biggest issue is if he gets hit with a normal attack before he gets hit with a super attack and gets this massive buff for the turn, he can take some big damage. Like we take him into the Rose and Zamasu event. That's why he's on the team build that I have, because I wanted to test him out. It was on the stream where we were having this discussion. And like Rose and Zamasu are potentially still the hardest fight in the game. But if you put him in slot 1 and they both super him straight away, not only does he take no damage and then also counters, which that part arguably is bad for Rose because then he's hitting Rose, but he counters them both, takes double digit damage, and then if they hit him with normal attacks, he takes double digit damage. The problem is, like we put him in slot 1, there were no attacks from Rose, and there's like 1 attack from Zamasu. Zamasu did a normal, and it did like 300k, and mine has like 3 dupes. So the problem is, he's good still in some situations, not good in others. But obviously Zamasu and Rose have locking, so sometimes it'll be unavoidable. But if like a new boss comes out that is a hard-hitting Ki Blast super attack boss and they don't have rotation locking, then Gotenks is still going to be a very solid option for that team as a unit in slot 2 or 3. He gets a lot of ki, he gets the guaranteed crits and an additional super if you're getting all the way up to 24 ki, so he can do a pretty decent amount of damage. So yeah, Gotenks in certain fights can still be very, very good. And even in future fights, like if they released a boss, kind of like that Broly from, was it the Seriously Serious event? I forget which boss it is. The Dragon Ball Super Broly that was STR, that could super like 3 times. If they release a boss like that, but it's Ki Blast super attacks, like Gotenks would still be great in that event, even if it dropped now. And as we said with the numbers, even if that boss was hitting for like 12 million and was supering 3 times, all in one slot, you just put Gotenks there and he takes double digit damage from all 3 of those super attacks. So yeah, that would be really, really good. So Gotenks has potential to still be good even in future difficult events as long as they're Ki Blast super bosses. If they're not, he's not quite as good. So he's on the list, like I say, kind of with an asterisk next to his name, I guess. So going back to a unit that's a little bit older than him, as we search for the oldest unit that is still good, I wanted to talk about TEQ Broly from the 2024 Worldwide. So he's from August 2024. Now, out of the 4 Worldwide Celebration characters, Broly is the one that probably is still the most viable in a lot of these events. With movie bosses getting a new 220 lead with like the Golden Frieza and Gogeta, this guy could still be very, very useful. He gives extreme class allies a little bit of a boost on the first turn, which is quite nice. I think that's the thing that a lot of people often forget that he actually does. Like, a lot of people just think about him as the turn 1, you don't transform him, he's a really good tank, and then after that, you know, you transform and you start doing typical Broly things. But the fact that that turn 1 buff, like 2 key and 60% extra attack and defense, is pretty good, and it's for all extreme allies. And then, yeah, he has damage reduction of 90% if he's in the first slot. So even in a lot of events now, he can still just tank all these attacks in slot 1. And then, of course, you go ahead and transform him on the next turn. Gets a little bit more risky after that. Like, he still has 76% damage reduction on the first 2 turns. And in slot 1, he gets guard and a bit of extra defense. But tougher hitting bosses, he will have a bit of trouble against in slot 1. But slot 2 or 3, after attacking, not only is he raising defense on his 12 key super, which he does have the chance to do an additional as long as he's been hit first in the turn, which of course is like a slot 2 or 3, but slot 1, sorry, but slot 2 or 3, he just gets a guaranteed additional super. So if you're not putting him in slot 1, you're not getting this extra buff, which is a lot, 200% defense. But obviously the when attacking, you're getting the 30% buff from the 12 key super attack effect. And then obviously he gets 150% attack when attacking with 12 or more key anyway. So the first attacker in the turn thing is like, it's really just for the tanking before he attacks. He makes up for a lot of those buffs in slot 2 or 3 as long as he gets to attack first. So as long as it's not against AoEs, he's still pretty good at tanking enemy attacks. And if you get to 24 key, he does an action break with his super attack as well. So in any situations where, like you say, you have a scouter active, or if it is one of the bosses that has like a scripted super attack, if Broly is in a slot where, let's say it's in slot 2 or 3, and the only attack that's coming his way after he's attacked is the boss supering, as long as you can get 24 key with him, you just cancel out the boss's super attack completely anyway. And then a lot of the harder hitting bosses, like some of the harder hitting bosses, he will survive their super. And of course, you know, the next turn after he transforms, where he still has the 26% for 3 turns, you also have the ability to do his active skill and get a permanent multiplicative 26% defense. So like, whilst he's not the super unkillable, let's just put him in slot 1 and he never dies tank that he kind of was on release in the meta for the 2024 Worldwide, he still works really well on like the movie bosses team and some of these other extreme teams. I mean, you can put him on, to be honest, once he's transformed, like, he doesn't really have any restriction. Well, it's not a restriction in his base form either, really. But you can run him on superclass, like, Saiyan teams and stuff as well. Like, he's only giving extreme class allies a buff. And he also gives a chance to crit if he's in slot 2 or 3. But I mean, he gets the defensive buff, biggest defensive buff in slot 1. Yeah, he's not restricted to being run with extreme allies or movie bosses. And obviously, being a Broly, he has links like Super Saiyan, Prepared for Battle. So his links are a bit dodgy for some other extreme allies, of course, and he's not a big bad bosses character. I think that will go down for me, I think, as one of the biggest like link fumbles for characters, is why on earth Broly doesn't have big bad bosses, you know, especially considering how much he absolutely manhandles the Z fighters in the Broly movie. But, you know, whatever, he's not a big bad boss apparently. But yes, Broly, whilst not super great or an unkillable tank in every single tough boss that we currently have, still very useful in the meta. And for fights being as short as they are, turn 1 being close to invincible against everything but the hardest bosses, turn 2 could be a bit shaky, a little bit less defense, but once he gets to attack, he kind of builds all that back up. And then it'll be what, turn 5, you'd then be using his active skill, and then ideally the fight's won, like that turn or turn 6, you know. So he can be very useful, even floating in slot 3. You get him in turn 1, transform him on turn 4, he wouldn't be back again till turn 7 anyway. Like, he could still be very, very good. So he's still useful in events now. So I qualify him under this sort of like discussion banner of, we're looking for the oldest unit that is still good in the current meta. And I would say Broly is still good. Not the great, not the best, but he's still good in the current meta. So then there's a unit who's quite a few months older than him, and that is AGL UI Goku, because he got his EZA on the 22nd of February 2024. Now, UI Goku is a unit that we actually had this discussion again today on the stream, while just chatting about, I can't remember what it was specifically, but AGL UI Goku, even like 2 years from now, if events come out that can be beaten in like 3 turns, AGL UI Goku will still have an argument for being useful in that event, as long as that event doesn't disable dodge. Because you could put him on the, whatever turn he comes into play on, put him in slot 3, he can't get hit, and then he doesn't come back until 3 turns later, and if that event is like a 3-turn event, then you've already won by then. And especially if it's a boss that could potentially be supering in slot 3. I know we've got some scripted bosses now, some of them do super in slot 3. Events like the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta from the Global Dokkan campaign, who very often supers in slot 2 and 3, like, this Goku just guarantee doesn't take any damage on the first turn. So again, things like easy A's, like, although they're not necessarily super difficult for people that grind way past stage 30 or 10 for the LR ones, any event that is fairly short, 3 to 4 turns, you will have a excuse to put AGL UI Goku on that team. Because even in the meta, like I say, like say 2 years from now, and we're at a point where a single normal attack from a boss destroys this guy completely, on the first turn, he can't take any damage. So as long as you're, you know, not, like I say, not fighting a boss that disables dodge, he's always going to be super useful. And he has a revival that has no turn restriction. It just has the HP restriction. So if you do take him into an event, float him off, and then somehow you get around to the next turn, 3 turns later, he comes back on rotation, and you are still not done with the fight, and like you're not going to win straight away that turn. As long as you are, now that is the condition, right? Because it is reliant on that. But as long as you're at 77% or less HP, you then can't die on that turn. And it's not even just him, it's anyone else on the turn gets KO'd, then he revives. And then of course, if you do that, the next turn he comes back around, he can dodge again. So, like, yeah, there will be situations in the future. Like, you think about some of the events now that have like bomb orbs, even the Giant Ape event, like the Giant Ape Bardock squad fight can take 6 or 7 turns if you're going slow. But like, you could have this guy come in turn 1, dodge everything, then on turn 2 you make sure you've taken a little bit of damage with like bomb orbs, then you have him come back in on turn 3, put him in slot 2, I guess, maybe, just so you could risk doing some big damage in slot 1 with the slot 1 unit, die, then you revive, you play out your turn 4, come back on turn 5 again, and he's got another turn where he can't take any damage. So you put him in slot 1 where there's usually like 8 attacks from the Giant Apes, and he dodges all of them. So this guy's still really, really good when it comes to these events. Like I say, short events, he'll just be an absolute king because he can dodge. And even in the slightly longer events, if you can manage your HP well enough to have this be viable with the revive when he comes back on that next turn, you then can't die. Again, it's another turn he's giving you where you can't lose, which is obviously very, very powerful in this game. So this guy will be valuable for years. Like, if I made this video again a year from now, which maybe I will try to remember to do, and we'll see how much older like the character will be that we get to on that video. But if I made this video a year from now, this guy will probably still be on it unless all of the hard fights in the meta at that time disable dodge. So UI Goku, absolute monster. And then slightly older than him, but this one is a bit more questionable, I guess, is Beast Gohan. So Beast Gohan came out on the 16th of February. So the Part 2 LR released, what, 6 days? 6 days before UI Goku got his EZA. Now, you might say, oh no, Beast Gohan fell off. Like, I've seen all the clips and posts of, like, you know, going into Rose and Zamasu, and he just gets supered in slot 1 and gets killed and so, which can happen. But with some of the events that they released, like Union Master, Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, which has gotten missions recently, and of course, you know, the big argument from all of the festival defenders is that if an event is getting missions, then it's a relevant event. So Battle Hardened Formidable Foes is still a relevant event, Union Master is the relevant event. Some of these events that are not super hard hitting straight away, Beast Gohan can still be really, really good. Because turn 1, he's very, very strong defensively. And as long as he takes a single hit on the first turn, then on the second turn that he appears, you can use his active skill, where he then gets a massive defensive buff and takes all of the attacks for the turn onto himself. And considering he has an extra 40% damage reduction for 5 turns, some of those fights are only lasting 3 or 4 turns. And this guy's coming in on either turn 1 or 2, tanking, then coming back on turn 3 or 4, target skill, and then you win either on that turn or the next turn, and he tanks all of the hits. So the only downside to that is any of the bosses that do AoE attacks. So yeah, against bosses who are hitting crazy hard right from the start, like right from turn 1, this guy can actually now, of course, be a liability. But considering some of the fights that we have in the meta, like, he was one of my go-to units for doing things like Battle Hardened Formidable Foes and the Union Master, because in those shorter events that aren't necessarily hitting like crazy on turn 1, this guy has the perfect chance to get some hits in on turn 1 where he's still strong defensively, and then just use the active skill where he becomes very, very strong defensively. So when we talk about like who is the oldest unit in the game that is still good, I feel like Beast Gohan is right up there. I'm trying to think who the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest were the year before he came out. Trying to think, how far back was it Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Hirudegarn? Were they for 2023? I'd have to double check that. Let's actually do that now. But yeah, because I don't think of many characters that are further back than this guy that are still good or like still runnable in the meta currently. So let's take a look for, where's STR Dragon Fist Goku? Be TURs. I mean, he is right there in the release order thing, so he probably was right before, yeah, New Year 2023, although obviously April 2024 for global. But yeah, so this guy obviously not still good in the meta, but yeah, the New Year Dual Dokkan Fest, those units outdated. So I feel like in terms of who could be thrown on a team now and still be good in the current meta for certain events, I would say Beast Gohan is the oldest unit that is still good. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I say, there's going to be a unit, I'm sure, that someone will mention that is older than Beast Gohan that will make me go, oh yeah, of course. But remember, as I tried to say at the beginning, we're talking about units that have released or easy aid, like based on that date. So if a character came out way before Beast Gohan, but they easy aid after Beast Gohan came out, then obviously for the purposes of this discussion, like Beast Gohan is older than them, right? Because they were updated since Beast Gohan came out. So Beast Gohan, I think, probably still the oldest unit that is still good. UI Goku is right there with him, of course, because it's literally 6 days. And in some events, of course, like we say, fights that go 3 to 4 turns, like, he can't die. So obviously very, very good. Of course, you know, he'll age eventually to the point where, I mean, kind of is there now against some of these tough bosses and how much defense and HP they have, where he's not really doing a lot of damage, so he's not providing a lot to the team in terms of you killing the boss, but giving you a slot where you can't take damage, and then on his next appearance, or even technically on his first appearance, if you're on low enough HP, a turn where you literally can't die, that's pretty good. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who do you think is the oldest unit that is still good? There's probably, like I say, there's got to be one that I missed, I'm sure, and I'm sure someone will mention it and I'll kick myself for not remembering them. But let me know what you guys think. Who is the oldest unit that is still good in Dokkan? Let me know down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.